guy is still here. See, what happens is every time you visit this church, someone will just appear and kind of hang about until you've left. It's like the answer is CCTV cameras. Anyway, he's safe inside his car. He's not going to get the dreaded Rona. So, anyway, do you know, it actually, let me get inside. Hermione let me in. Just need to press the right buttons and she lets me in. Oh. Yeah, I only planned on making one short little video of meditation, but coming to this place has unlocked so many memories and feelings. Because the story that I'm trying to lay down is so incredibly complicated, and it goes back a long way now, and it was Salvia Divinorum, actually. Oh, it must have been about 5 years ago or so, and you see, this plant contained I thought that it, when I took it, this notion of this primal goddess came through, but it comes through in ayahuasca, comes through in the landscape. So now I realise that it doesn't matter what I take, there seems to be a resonance there, and I'm not the only one. You know, I don't own this. You know, I don't want to get too crazy on that because it belongs to everyone, and when it comes to classifications, it's so difficult, and I'm just simply relaying what's happened and what comes through. But it puts me in mind of that day that I sat in meditation before I took the Salvia Divinorum down in my study back in the old house that I used to own, where I used to live. And that was the first time I ever had, you know, direct contact that was where I really knew it was lucidly, you know, it was understandable that this is the form of a god. I became Saturn. Mercury was circling me, laughing, going, "Old man Saturn," as he went around me, and I could at once see and at the same time not see these presences. It's impossible to describe. And there was all sorts of other strange stuff, and for some reason Manly P. Hall appeared. His voice, you see, I'd had this dream of a seed falling from the sky and a plant growing up and the leaves being bathed in light, and my daughter had painted a picture called "The Tree is for Sunset" around about the same time. And this is before we even get into the story of the dwarf Buddha, or as my teacher has described him, the austere gnome. When I relayed the story. See, this is the trouble you get talking. It's so many. It's a menagerie of divine madness, actually. And if it was like that every day, all the time, but it's not. It's here and there. It's getting more like that these days with the, you know, with the isolation and the not true isolation in terms of being completely cut off, but having so much more time in the countryside, and obviously with the meditation practice becoming so extreme, and spending so much more time in meditation, the connection deepens. But yeah, I remember Manly P. Hall's voice, because obviously my subconscious had chosen something familiar in order to convey a message. And this notion of the seed falling, there's a beautiful diagram in a book called The Mark by Maurice Nicole of the mustard seeds. That's worth looking at. That conveys this image perfectly. Anyway, so this voice is saying this, you know, this problem with evolution, that we evolved from apes. It's true, but it's not the full picture. And this idea that the creationists have, that we're created, it's true, but not the whole picture. It's, you know, you've got these two sides that are going up against each other, and it's like they just need to chill out and think more deeply and more widely, because again, this notion of duality, of two things being true at the same time, and this third aspect is mysterious. It's, you know, we can't go back there and know exactly we can only rely on scientific research and mystical insight. So put the two together. We did evolve. This is what the vision was saying, that we did evolve. But there's no specific detail about exactly from what or how. But it was saying that a seed was placed in the collective psyche of the species. Like a seed, like a spark of light from divinity was placed within man. So as we grow up from the dregs of animalistic savagery, it's like part of the reason that we're so preoccupied and unable to settle, and we're not satisfied with anything, is not only because, you know, that's the way the mind works in terms of survival and progression, but when one stills, one can understand that there is a deeper need to connect with that source. But in truth, that source is already within us. If we can go down deep within in order to go up. It's like the route is down through the underworld to where the seed was placed, and then up the tree, the plant, the tree, whatever, from there. And I'm just talking poetically, but this is something that stayed very much with me from that experience, that is echoed in all kinds of other writings and ideas, of course. I remember an experience as a teenager on a particular substance. I don't even want to go into what that was, but I remember seeing a tree, an eternal tree. So these motives, they're motifs, motifs are always coming up. Anyway, so there was the Manly P. Hall type divine seed thing, and then there there was two of me. So like I was saying to me going up the stairs, like, or rather me that was going upstairs was saying, we're about to go up the stairs now. And I was like, oh, okay, or something like this. So then we both went upstairs. And then the other me that was already in the garden was like, we're about to walk into the garden now. So, okay, all right, okay. So I walked forward. Salvia Divinorum does something strange with time. Can slow time down, and you can also be aware of what's just about to happen in the future. But there's nothing you can do about it. So I'm like, okay, we're going upstairs now. Go out into the garden, and my garden at this point had beautiful ivy. And this is what my ex-wife, she ripped all this ivy down. It really upset me. I was come home from work. I can't believe you're so beautiful. Why did you? And I remember I was getting angry with it, and it reminded me of the pyramids being stripped of the beautiful white limestone that apparently covered all it. It sort of reminded me of that, and that kind of defacement. It's like it took a long time. It's beautiful. It really pissed me off actually, and we had a little argument over that. But in time, obviously, it was forgotten. And just another instance that proved how different we were. That we were incompatible, really. Anyway, so this garden at night with the stars, there was a chimney pot on the horizon that just happened to be shaped also in this same shape of the goddess. Oh, our dude's out there looking at me. Oh, is he making a video? What's he doing? I'm hanging around longer, so you have to hang around longer. If I was going to steal something, I wouldn't pull up in my van in the daytime with my number plate visible and tell you what my name is. But if you think I'm being unfair, you know when people have that shifty look in their eyes where everything's a bit like, please don't think outside of the box. That constant barrier, that us and them thing, that only needs to come up when it's necessary. It doesn't need to be there all the time. It's stressful. Anyway, so in the garden, the chimney pot just happens to be that shape. And right now, I wish I lost the diary, unfortunately, where I recorded this incident. I had 3 magical diaries. I only have photographs of pictures and a little bit of text now left. And it's good that they were lost, because some of the aspects of my practice were deeply amateur at that time, so I'm glad that the record is lost. Although it's forgivable, it's innocent, but it's nice to have the true beginning a little bit later on. And I had some obsessions that I was suffering from at the time, which were unhealthy, anyway, it was just like me and her, and it was nature personified, very loving and just growth and fecundity, but there was something dark and mysterious there too. See, I think this archetype exists on many levels, and I took the same substance actually, me and Samuel Connor, in the woods of the Aylesford Downs, and again it's like she just becomes present. If there's a shape that cannot be identified with her, then her presence will be made manifest in the very essence of the air, you know, the vibe. I remember she was saying, I can remember the words this time. I'm not sure if there were words the first time, but this time, not words, but the explicit knowing again of nature isn't all tooth and claw. You know, it's savage, yes, and you do struggle with this notion of how barbaric it is, but please understand and feel now the underlying impetus of love behind all of creation, and that love is me, is within me and exuding from me, and I am nature. Therefore everything contains an aspect of that nobility. Nice. So it's funny, isn't it, how you see it gets to the point now where it's inescapable to me. It doesn't matter what I do, whether it's I mean, at this time, this obsession. I shouldn't go into that actually, but anyway, it doesn't matter what I do, who I have the hots for, whatever art I make. It's like whatever psychedelics I might have taken. More so in the past, I'm not really into that anymore. Although, let's just say I don't sit around thinking about it. It's not completely off the cards, and but I'm more satisfied in the clearness, the perception, the presentness of meditation. Every experience is hard won and more real in certain ways. But then again, obviously the psychedelics, they can contain so much information, so much vivid imagery that it stays with you, but it doesn't have the same healing and transformative clout that persistent meditation and its visions and treasures convey. So yeah, it doesn't matter what I do, where I go, it's inescapable that this is trying to come through me. And even the opportunities that have presented themselves recently align, to this notion that I have to communicate her. And there might be some confusion now. It's like, well, you're talking about this lady in the landscape. Specifically, yes, I am. But you see, hopefully in time it will become more clear, or maybe it won't, but there is the white lady, but there is the darkness that she comes from, these two aspects, the light and the dark. There seems to be an aspect of her that is, she's in the landscape, right? So we have, even as I'm talking now, it's like, it's difficult. Predominantly there is the lower and the higher manifestation, the more personable, the light that comes, and there is the darkness that exists behind. Like I said, I do strongly have the strong instinct that she is the mother of death. She, in the same way that we are birthed into the world, she would birth the local people, or perhaps, this is a universal concept, birthing the someone's death into the next stage. So these are the two aspects that I deal with specifically. In terms of nature and the way that it interacts with the landscape, it's a given, it's already there. That's not something that I'm directly concerned with every day. I tend to look, I'm more interested in the greater of the greater mystery of what lies, behind the veil, if you like. It all interests me, but you see how, as I try to make classifications, everything breaks down. It becomes impossible. So I merely have to enter into dialogue with her in order to produce art and writing now, in order that something may come out that makes sense, that this culmination between what is coming in and me, the receiver, that something can be birthed through this process. And I've no doubt that it's very important that I do this. But I must not let it consume me utterly, because it is intoxicating. In other words, one has to stay open to, this is where the Hermetic training comes in beautifully. You have to keep this in balance. I have to keep this in balance. In terms of a dialogue, this process has already begun, and it will take a long time, and it's wonderful to be so free these days of any kind of fear of judgment. You see, it's a funny thing, because within your spiritual practice you can be extremely confident and at the same time questioning and open and humble, and it's like the way that you interact with the world, you're seeking to become more harmonious, yet at the same time you recognize that friction and you're less affected by it. So one shall carry on.